Some of us live in rural areas. Others live in towns. Wherever we live, we depend on the environment for our basic needs. It's where our food grows. And it's from the environment that we get the fuel for cooking our food. The materials we need for building come from the environment. From the environment, we also get our precious water. Sometimes our need for all these things can put a strain on the environment. In the last few years, towns in Kenya have been growing very rapidly. The way they have been growing is stretching the environment to its limits. We visited several towns to see what was happening for ourselves.
The problem is water.
Water. That water
is not so good.
Clean.
It is not
because it has been contaminated due to sewage, and some vehicles are also being washed there. So the water is not good for life.
The children have diarrhea because the water is not very clean. We don't boil the water because sometimes charcoal is very expensive.
Problem is the blood coming from slaughterhouse into this small river. It spoils our vegetables, maize, and everything we plant. This blood change all this food to a bad taste.
Another issue that concerned a lot of people was garbage.
When it's raining, it is collecting all takataka, flowing all to our market, so that maybe we can be affected also with other diseases.
People still feel that a local authority must supply dustbins, and if they are not given, then they are going to dispose of the garbage in whatever way they like.
If nothing is done, the situation will get worse. Towns will become deserts, polluted by human and industrial waste. But how did this happen? It hasn't always been like this.
There used to be a very thick forest over the hills or the hilltops, and also indigenous trees were plenty over those hills. And because of that also we had a lot of water flowing from the hills downwards to the springs. Well, they had a sort of belief of that one, that the hill had been crying throughout because it looks as tears.
There was plenty of firewood in the old days, and it was easily available. I used to fetch firewood from nearby. There was also lots of water. The rivers never dried up. We used to carry water quite some distance on our heads, but there was always plenty of it.
Along the river or the swampy areas, people used to plant bananas, arrowroots, and sugar canes. These were for two reasons. One is to protect the river banks, and also to assist people during drought season.
But more recently, we realized that there might be a problem if we kept on asking the environment for more and more without giving anything back.
We don't have enough trees for firewood, we don't have enough trees for timbers, and as well for building poles. Most of the springs now, they don't have enough water because the trees which we used to catch water for the springs have been cut down, especially at the hilltops.
When we damage the environment, we also suffer ourselves. But it doesn't have to be this way. There are solutions. Towns can grow without destroying the environment. With the right care, they can be free of erosion, with clean water, shade trees, and regular garbage collection. One way of achieving this is through partnership. A combined effort by the community and government in Kisii took on the Darajambili market, where the biggest problem was erosion.
Since I was young, the place was good because the level was all right. But now, according to erosion, soil is gone away.
Finding solutions to major urban environmental problems like this requires some understanding of how the man-made world interacts with nature. This is what the community and government officers studied at a 3-day workshop in Kisii. On the hill above the market, there were few trees and no terraces to hold the stormwater, which raced down and met the water running off from the roads and roofs in the Nubian village below.
There used to be a lot of water coming from the hill, and we wouldn't allow children to cross the road because the water might sweep them away.
All this water ran down the road, eroding it badly. At the foot of the hill, the water swept through the market, washing away entire sections. The participants at the Kisii Environmental Workshop came up with a plan of action.
If we couldn't, arrest the water at the uppermost hillside, then the water still would come down to the market. And until we had controlled the storm water coming from the hill, still the damage would still be caused on the market.
They elected a team of 6 people to mobilize the community.
I talked to the people and tried to persuade them to come and work on the road. I got 5 youths and we started the work together. As we continued working, more and more people came until we had over 100.
First, the volunteers regraded the road, and soon it was open to traffic for the first time in many years. Then the water was diverted away from the road by digging drains and laying culverts. However, there was still a lot of water coming from the hill. Another group of volunteers came together to work on this problem. They started making terraces and planting napier grass on the embankments. Having stopped the erosion in the market, the action group are now working on further improvements. The first step towards a new market was to have a detailed survey done. Now the action group is seeking the opinion of the traders.
We want you to build us a market with a roof and a low wall, so that when customers are passing, they can see what we are selling.
The planning and building of the new market will take many months. In the meantime, the action group wanted to plant shade trees in the market and along the road. They approached the municipal council and have been given a plot of land for a tree nursery. The tree nursery promises to be self-sufficient. The Kisii Action Group have a close working relationship with the municipal council.
From the municipality, we somehow give the expertise. Say the town engineer would come when we are laying some culverts, would advise on how to lay the culverts correctly. And again, the municipality can also give some transport, maybe to hold some culverts from staff training where the culverts are being molded.
The Action Group have received assistance from many sources. The billboards, for instance, were made free of charge by a local businessman and the Ministry of Works. Projects similar to the one in Kisii are being encouraged by an environmental workshop program designed specifically for African towns. Residents, NGOs and government officials come together for 3 days. Under the guidance of fully trained facilitators, they analyze their town's environmental problems and come up with sustainable solutions. The workshops are the brainchild of Green Towns, a joint project between the Kenyan and Dutch governments. The program is built around a series of 7 videos specially made for the workshops. The main purpose of the videos is to promote discussion.
If I call a barasa in my area to tell them what to do to assist us in cleaning our environment, will you please explain to them where their surface charge goes to, because they keep telling me they pay their surface charge.
If we could get a clearer view from here, it might...
At the start of the workshop, participants go to a high place to get an overview of the town. There they start making their own map.
That is the hospital?
No, that's a bakery.
Oh, that's a bakery.
Okay. So the hospital will be to the right of that.
This side,
okay.
yeah.
Yes. That's the main road to Bungoma.
Yeah.
We have the green farmland across here and a bit of vegetation here and right along the highway.
Then, using this map, the workshop participants locate the environmental problems in their town.
Followed by the heavy chemicals factory, which is just below the pan paper. Also, we have the slaughterhouse.
What might be causing these problems? Are there any connections between them?
Is there a drainage problem?
They plan a field trip to find out. And so, armed with questions, small groups go out into the town.
You are on a slopey hill and all. Are there any other environmental problems you're experiencing?
Okay, the area is swampy, especially during rain seasons, and it is so close to the house. It has even affected us a lot. It has brought in mosquitoes. And because of that also, we are unable even to dig a pit latrine.
What they learned from their field trip is plotted on maps. In Webuye, a cross-section was drawn to show how the form of the land was affecting the drainage.
We come down, there are some forest areas with the squatters dotted here and here. As we come further down, we get springs. These springs, as we further go, we get more springs near the town hall. But because of the developments in the town here, runoff water has interfered with the construction of the buildings here, some of which have even collapsed.
To help them foresee and then hopefully prevent environmental problems in the future, they look at how the town will grow over the next 10 years and ask, how will this affect the environment?
People will tend to have development, future development in this direction. One reason being that communication is easy. The land is along the Great North Road.
Having analyzed the situation thoroughly, the next step is to look at possible answers. At this point, one of the videos is screened. It shows environmental solutions that people are trying in towns around the country.
A Maendeleo Jiko uses less fuel than a 3-stone fire. With a cooking basket, you can save even more.
Fireless cooking method, in that way, I mean you cook the food halfway and then you transfer it to the basket where it will finish the cooking. And in that manner, you have saved first, you have saved firewood, and you have saved also your time.
At present, we are building big houses with corrugated iron roofs. What can help us is putting gutters on the roofs to collect all the water and storing it in a tank.
Here in Dandora, Nairobi, the Kuku Women's Group make compost for sale.
We work every Monday, so it gives each of us time to collect rubbish from wherever we can get it. We use it on our small kitchen gardens, and we also sell it. We get customers from as far away as Kisii. It's not big money we get from this compost, but we don't spend anything, and it's only 1 day a week.
Seeing different approaches encourages the workshop participants to come up with creative solutions of their own.
We can sensitize residents on the urgency of a clean environment through baraza. We can also talk to them through TV, radio, and even put posters so that they can know the urgency of a clean environment.
We also thought to take the organic material and decompose it for kitchen gardening and maybe for sale.
The workshop participants insert the solutions they have developed onto a map. The result is an environmental development plan for the whole town.
In the old town, sanitation and drainage, and in the lower areas, drainage and ground cover and tree planting.
Then they translate part of their plan into actions that they could undertake themselves.
On the map, we looked at the areas that we have this problem. Then we found that the mother of this problem is actually the Chetambe Hill. So our action plan was to plant trees along this hill so as to stop this excess water runoff into these two areas.
At the end of the workshop, volunteers are called for. They will form an action group to push forward the environmental program that the workshop has developed.
We are able to come out with a volunteer group. These members who are in front of us, who have actually accepted to carry out our selected actions from the 6 different groups.
It's a challenge being a member of one of these action groups. The first thing they do is go back to their community to pass on what they have learned.
Oh, Mr. Water, you are certainly second to none. Who or what on earth can live without you?
In Homa Bay, once people understood they could do something to stop the flooding of their area, many volunteers came forward to help solve this problem. In Busia, the action group have established a park in the center of town. A local women's group has taken responsibility for looking after the trees.
We are just planting what we want, and then we help them to cultivate the trees inside here. We enjoy looking after the trees because it is our town and we want our town to be smart.
These successes are made against the difficulties that any volunteer group must face and overcome.
When we started off the project, very many people associated us with a Muzungu because we have Wazungus sponsoring the project. Now, many people associated a Muzungu with a dollar, and a dollar at the time we started the project was a very, very handy currency in Kenya. So people have actually mistaken us, the volunteer group, that we are getting a lot of money and we're very mean, we're eating that money alone.
There are active environmental groups in a number of Kenyan towns, including Malindi and Olkalau. The voluntary groups look for funding from central government and donors. The sums they receive are not large, but with the commitment of the community, it is possible to tackle major environmental problems. In the near future, the environmental workshop will be run in all local authorities in Kenya. The environmental workshop program for small towns very quickly upgrades the community's understanding of their environmental problems and encourages them to think of things they could do to help themselves. A partnership between the government and the community is proving to be a realistic option for solving urban environmental problems. If people take responsibility for their town's environment in the same way that they care for their shambas, real improvements can be made. Improvements that will provide lasting benefits to this and future generations.
Kelly.